Hi and welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at the magic of mince. Our first recipe is a savoury mince base which contains 500 grams of lean 5% fat mince. You can see it here. Yep, so this one particular is from Aldi, which only costs £2.97, which is a very reasonable price, and that will probably make about 4 meals. So we've got garlic granules, if you wanted garlic granules. We've got fresh ones here, which we're going to use today. I've got a finely diced carrot, a finely diced celery, finely diced onion, and we've got some mushroom and a beef oxo cube. So that's all you need. To make our savoury mince, we're going to add a tiny little bit of olive oil, in this case, to the base of our frying pan, or a saucepan would do. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our vegetable bouillon and we're going to saute those until they're nice and soft. So as a reminder again, we've got our small minced garlic. We have 1 large onion, 1 medium-sized carrot, and 1 stalk of celery. And this would be perfect for 500 grams. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to split the recipe in a moment. So I'll have 250 grams of mince in each one. So let me just get this back in there. There we go. And what we're going to do now is we're going to saute those, which just means fry lightly, until such time as the onion starts to go a little bit translucent, a little bit see-through and not burnt. And you will have the aroma of the vegetables filling the kitchen, which will be lovely. So I'm going to pop back in a moment when that's ready. Okay, between 5 and 7 minutes have passed, and now you'll see that the carrots, onions, celery and garlic are nice and softened. What we're going to do now is we're going to add the mushrooms. She says, not being able to get them out. As the mushrooms don't take as long and you don't want them to go to mush. So I'm just going to let that stir around for another 2 minutes, and then we're going to add our mince to brown it. So I'm now going to dry fry my mince, and you can see it go brown. All I've done is I've just popped the veg to one side. You could take out the pan if you have a smaller pan, or you can just add it in as well. But for the purposes of the video, I'm just adding in my meat like so. Pick this up with my other hand for now before I wash my hands. Just going to break the mince up so that it's dry fried. Now if you find that your mince sticking at this point, by all means do turn the temperature down. I've still got this on quite high heat. I'm going to turn it down to a medium heat in a moment. I'll be back in a second after I wash my hands. So I'm back having washed my hands, and I'm just going to break up the mince. And as you can see, once the mince is cooking there and making contact with the pan, you'll see what's known scientifically as the Maillard reaction. And that's where the sugars that are present within the beef are turning the mince from a blood red to a brown. So this is where we're browning the mince. So you can see it's cooking nicely there. Just continuing to move it around the pan, because with 5% fat mince, very lean mince as this is, extra lean as it's classed as, it can sometimes catch on the bottom of pans. Now this is a brand new pan, so it shouldn't do. It is a copper pan, non-stick. I just want it continually moving around so that we've got no area cooking faster than the other. So as you can see, it doesn't take particularly very long for the mince to cook when you dry fry. Now, some mince that you can get in the store, whether that be fresh in the chilled section even, or in the freezer, standard mince is normally about 20% fat. So that will have a lot of fat and oil which will come off and it will spit in your pan. So you'll certainly need a medium heat for that. Lean mince is often classed as 12%, but again you will still get a lot of oil from that as well. So we have a technique which we teach in school, which is I would take the vegetables out so that we only have the meat in there. And then what we would do, as soon as the mince gets to the stage that it's at now, where it's all brown, we'd pop it through a sieve to drain off any excess fat, so that you're reducing the fat content, even, put my teeth back in, the fat content down to about 7% or so that you're making a lean dish. Now obviously the lower the fat percentage, the extra lean that you've got, the more expensive the cut of meat. Normally mince comes from the flank region of the cow, and in order for this to be extra lean it needs to be 5%, as I've said before, and usually that has a price indicator within the supermarkets. This one was £2.97, which is very reasonably priced in Aldi anyway, from British farmers, but you can get meat as cheap as £1 something, £1.90 for a 20% fat. But what you'd obviously have to do there is to drain the fat off. So I'm going to mix this vegetables in now. And this is my savoury mince. Now of course, everything that we cook here in Mrs. G's kitchen is all about personal preference. So if you don't like celery or you're allergic to celery, then of course don't put it in. Same goes for mushrooms, same goes for onions, same goes for carrot. Some people find grating the carrot in works much better and it melts down and adds a slight sweetness. Some people just prefer to have a little taste of onion but not have the texture, like my husband and my son. So what I tend to do with that is just to puree it down, and then they never know it's in there and it kind of gets hidden. So we have savoury mince now, which is the standard recipe which we can now use for a bolognese, which is a meat-based ragu sauce, or we can make this into a chili, whatever you would like to do. Now this is the basis, but what we need to do is add our gravy. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add our gravy. I'll bring this into shot. I'll just take this off the heat for now, so I'm not competing with the noise. So you can see this in shot. Yes, you can. So we've got a measuring jug here. We have our oxo cube from before. Now I don't know whether you know, but there's this little hack that I was shown on the internet the other day. Not the other day, about a year ago now. Everyone nearly always battles on with these little oxo cubes, but what you actually have is a little pillow when you fold it out. And then if you rip the top off like that, you've then got a pouring spout to pop your stock cube in. Who knew? Alright, so we're going to make our own little gravy here. Little gravy granules inside. Got a kettle which I've boiled, and for this particular amount of mince I'm going to add about 400 millilitres of stock. So this is my beef stock. Let's get a wooden spoon for that. Just going to stir this around. Now at the moment you're going to be looking at it and thinking, well, that's not a very thick gravy. How do we thicken this up? There's a couple of ways we can do that. We can thicken it up through the use of corn flour in a cold slurry, or we could use plain flour. So we're back. We've got 400 millilitres of our oxo, our beef stock, which we're going to add in slowly so it doesn't spit. There we go. And that's going to help cook our mince a little bit longer. Now at the moment that looks very, very watery, and what we're looking for is a nice reduction sauce. So in order for that to reduce down further and thicken up, what we're going to do is add a couple of teaspoons of corn flour starch. What we don't do is we don't put it straight in. What we do is we put it in with cold water to make a little slurry, and then add that into the middle there. And of course, if you do have something like Bisto or Quickso, all these equivalent gravy granules, then of course you could use those as well. In terms of GCSE higher skills, what we're looking for is for you to be able to make your own stock and then be able to make a reduction for those higher skill levels. So I'm going to let this simmer away for a little bit until it starts to reduce. As you can see, our sauce has reduced down now. It's been simmering away for 10 minutes. That's what we call a reduction sauce. So it's reduced down in terms of the amount of liquid it has, because that excess liquid has evaporated. And the other little bit of science in here is obviously the starch from the corn flour, which we've learnt about previously, whereby those starch granules have gone through the process of gelatinization, where they've reached a temperature of 80 degrees Celsius and they've started to burst and collapse and started to ooze out their lovely viscosity and make this into a lovely, fantastic thickened sauce. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to season with a bit of Susie salt and Percy pepper. Have a quick taste first and see what we think. So tiny little bit of salt, not too much because there is a little bit of salt in that OXO cube that we used before. And where's my pepper? Tiny little bit of pepper just to lift that sauce. Fresh spoon to taste, no double dipping allowed. Beautiful. So there's savoury mince, ready to rock and roll.